Hello,
Hello,
everybody. Hi,
and
Craig.
welcome to a Wednesday live stream on Thursday. Can you see me, Lynn?
I can't see you at all, Craig. I think you're having problems with your camera, and I can't actually see your full screen. Maybe you can tilt your camera down a little so I can catch your face. That's better, but it's awfully dark.
Shall I turn the lights on?
I need a bit more light. Can you put more light on there, Craig?
Okay, I'll throw some light on the situation. Why don't you tell people what we're going to talk about and also about your website?
Yeah, okay. So, hello. I think so far we just got Hema. Hi, Hema. I'm glad that you could make it tonight on the Thursday because we changed the day because of the national holiday. So, welcome to Facebook Live with Craig and I. Craig's having a few technical problems, which is actually the topic of our live stream class tonight, is technical problems when you're having online interviews in English and what to do about them. And hi, Norma. You're from Jalisco in Mexico. Very nice to see you. Thank you. There, Craig. You've got lovely light now.
That's better, isn't it? That's how it should be. And we're going to explain how you can improve your image on videos if you do need to do video conferencing and you would like to up your game, as they say, improve your quality of your video and audio for interviews in English.
So let's just do a few introductions first. So I'm Lynn. If you haven't joined us before, I can see that now we've got Heidi. Hi, Heidi. We've had you before. Nice to see you there again. And Concha. I think Concha's been here with us as well before. So good evening to you all. Now, okay, so just to introduce myself in case people are watching the live stream and don't know me, my name is Lynn. I'm an online teacher and my website is called putitlikethis.com, which is at the bottom of your screens there. And I specialize in making tailor-made courses to help you improve your English and achieve the things you want to do in English. So if you're interested in a tailor-made course, then you can go to putitlikethis.com and get in touch with me. And Craig, who are you?
I'm Craig. I also teach English online. And if you go to mansioningles.com, which is a website aimed at Spanish speakers, for Spanish speakers, you'll find lots of material and courses that will help you improve your English. We also have a podcast. You can listen to the podcast every week over at inglespodcast.com or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you're interested in speaking fluency, improving your speaking skills, I'm in the middle of a course at the moment with 8 lovely students. We're really having a lot of fun. But if you would like to sign up for the next course, which will be starting in November, go to englishmasterclass.net, write your email address in the space, and I will send more information. Now, Lynn, what are we talking about this week?
Well, as we started, and Craig did a very graphic introduction.
An example of what not to do.
Exactly. So the topic of our class tonight, we thought that many people now are doing interviews, and of course, interviews in English, if you're not a native speaker, can be a terrifying prospect. But it's sometimes even worse if you're asked to do an online interview. And many employers now are doing online interviews. And if you have an online interview in English, it adds an extra level of difficulty sometimes if you're not a native speaker. So tonight we thought we would look at the kind of language you might need if you start having technical difficulties. And then Craig has got a lot of experience working online. I have quite a bit of experience now working online. And in between giving you some language for dealing with potential difficulties, and vocabulary about the kinds of things you can talk about, we thought we'd also give you some of our tips and tricks.
Yes. And hi to Concha, one of my most motivated students who's just finished a group class for conversation and is joining us also. Concha from Madrid. Hello. And Adriana, Thank you for joining us as well.
Lovely.
So, yes, we're going to look at some tips and tricks and language, obviously English expressions, for when you are doing online video conferencing, if that is part of your job, or maybe you are studying online, or maybe you have to do an interview in English and you have to connect on something like Skype or Zoom or Google Meet. How can you make the best impression with audio, with video, and obviously with your English? So,
And Craig, have you ever had any, I know that you do online classes, don't you, like I do, but have you ever had any online interviews?
that's a good question. No, I haven't. In fact, I don't remember the last time I had a job interview. I've been guests on video shows and video podcasts, but I've never actually been interviewed. Have you?
No, I haven't either. I realise that, but I have, as many people know who with us, I have daughters and they're looking for jobs right now. And I know that they're getting a lot of online interviews. It's something that you have to do quite a lot. And also another format that sometimes is requested is that when you apply for a job, they don't want an online interview, but they want you to actually send a little video.
Yeah, like a video CV or resume.
Yeah, well, kind of like a video CV, or sometimes it's just like saying why you're interested in the job.
Yeah, to
So
see
they're
how you
not
present
actually even
yourself.
talking to you, but they expect you to give a video describing a particular point, which is also quite a problem if you're not very used to the technology.
Well, it can be. And obviously, you want to show yourself in the best light and you want to give the best impression possible. So let's look at some general vocabulary for navigation. And we've got some words up here.
Now, this is really important, not for obviously if you're making a video, but if you're actually on a call with people, sometimes you're having to communicate to people to do different things on their computer. And so it's very important, isn't it, to know top right if you're trying to tell people where they should be looking for something. So please look at the top right of your screen or look at the bottom left of your screen. Sometimes people say in English, top right-hand corner, top left-hand corner, bottom left-hand corner. That's quite a mouthful. You don't have to say hand corner. You can just say, go to the top right or at the bottom left. That's enough.
Yeah. And sorry, and a toolbar, which you might be familiar with, the tools, which are things that you sometimes need around the house, don't you? You need hammers, screwdrivers, nails, saws when you're working physically, but also with software, you have tools. You have tools on your screen. If you open Word, if you open PowerPoint, you have a toolbar, which is at the top or the bottom. It can be anywhere around the screen. But if you use Zoom, for example, the toolbar is often at the bottom and you've got things like chat, share your screen, those kind of tools
All the
that you
different
can
functions.
use.
So another really tool is a word for function in computer language. And the toolbar is where you can find the different functions.
Exactly.
Now, in Zoom, because you were talking about Zoom, the toolbar, which usually is at the bottom of your picture, the toolbar only appears when you actually take your mouse and you hover your mouse. You put your mouse down to the bottom of the screen. And when the mouse goes over the bottom of the screen, then the toolbar appears. Because otherwise the toolbar is invisible, so it doesn't bother you while you're doing it's not always permanently there. So if you're trying to explain to somebody that they have to go to a certain function, you might have to tell them how to make the toolbar appear. And then you say, hover your mouse, go to the bottom, take your mouse to the bottom of the screen and hover your mouse, which means move your mouse around at the bottom of the screen and then the toolbar will appear.
And the preposition you might hear with that is over, isn't it? So you hover your
Yes.
mouse over the toolbar, or you hover
Mhm.
your mouse over a particular icon on the
Mhm.
screen. And then if you want to activate the icon, or if you want something to happen, you have to click with your mouse, and you'd need the preposition on to click on the chat,
Mhm.
or to click on the button, for
Mhm.
example.
And then, especially if you're sharing screens or you're looking at a document, maybe you have to move the document up or you have to move the document down. And then again, you will need your mouse, because at the side of the screen, you have a very long vertical line. And that is called the scroll bar. Scroll bar. And when we say you have to scroll up the document, you're going upwards. And if you scroll down, you're moving the document, you're going downwards in the document to find what you want. Now, if somebody is sharing their screen with you, you have no control over the scroll bar. So you have to ask them, can you scroll up, please? Can you scroll down, please? And then they'll be able to move their screen so that you can see it better.
Hi, Pilar, who's just joined us from Colombia, and Victorino from Nicaragua. By the way, if you have any questions, then please write them in the chat. Hover your mouse over the chat if it's not already available, and click on the post a comment section, and then ask your question there. So buttons, where are we? Icon. Icon is an image. It's a picture representing something. For example, you might get a picture of people speaking, and that's the chat icon. Or you might get a picture of a screen, and that's the screen share icon. So an icon is a representation of a function that you want to activate by clicking your mouse.
And another synonym of icon is button. So they can say, go on the chat button. Can you see a chat button? Or can you see the chat icon? The icon is really a pictorial representation, isn't it, of the tool. And the button for us normally is something that you press on a telephone or on a keypad. You press a button. And in computer language, we use both. We say icon or button. Sometimes we also have little arrows. Now, these are very common in Zoom, because if you're at the bottom on the toolbar is visible, you'll see icons which represent your microphone and represent your screen. Now, when you click on those icons, all it does is that it activates your microphone, or it either mutes your microphone, which means it silences your microphone and you see a red line through it. And the same is true of the video icon. If you press it, if you click on it, then it will stop your video. And if you click on it again, it opens the video. If you click on the mic again, it opens the mic. But next to those buttons, you will see a little arrow. Now, an arrow is like a V shape, an upside down V shape. And that's a signal, of course, that there are more functions if you click on that arrow. So if somebody says, go to the arrow, then click on that one, yeah? Which is the little pointy thing, the point next to the icon.
Just take a break for a second. Your hair is growing rapidly and you look gorgeous, says Heidi. So
Well, thank you, Heidi. 10 points for Heidi. We'll give her an A star today.
Definitely. Now, if
Thank
you're
you,
using, sometimes it happens to me quite often, you go into some software that you're not familiar with, that you don't know where the icons and the buttons are. So the person you're speaking to, maybe it's the interviewer or somebody who you're speaking to on the conference, will give you instructions, and they might say, go to the icon on the top right of the screen, or open the settings menu, or sometimes there's a pop-up menu which suddenly appears if you go to websites and you get advertisements that jump into your face, they are called pop-ups, pop-up advertisements. They're really, really annoying. But a menu might pop up to give you more options in a particular software. And you also might get text or messages that pop up, especially if you hover your mouse. So all of these expressions and terms you might hear when you're speaking to somebody who's explaining new software to you. And that might happen if a company likes to use a particular software, maybe you've never used it, then you might have to use these terms and expressions to clarify things, or they might give you instructions for different things in the software program.
And as usual, we British people, or English speakers, British and American, we love our phrasal verbs. So it just occurred to me there when you were talking about the pop-up, that also we click on, but we also click away. We'd say, oh, there's a pop-up on my screen. Don't worry, just click away, click it away, which means make it go away. Click on it and it will disappear.
Exactly.
Obviously, you usually have to click on the little cross in the top right-hand corner of the pop-up. But you will hear words like click, but it might be click on, drop down, click up. Yeah. So you be prepared, because you'll hear different directions with similar verbs, phrasal verbs being invented all over the place. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hi, Burgos from Ecuador. Thank you for joining. You're very, very welcome. And thank you if you're watching the replay as well. Thank you for your time. And I hope you're learning some useful phrases from this live stream. Now, moving on to tips for video. If you were here at the very beginning, I showed you what not to do. So obviously you want to make sure your face is visible in the video and it is well lit. Now it's dark here in Valencia, so I don't have any daylight. I've got 2 lights shining on me. And if you don't have any professional lights, don't worry, just make sure you've got lots of light around you. Put the lights on in the room, get small lights around you so that your face is well lit. Do not have the window behind you if it's during the day, because that will take all of the light from the webcam and you will be dark and behind you will be light. So make sure the window is behind the computer, behind the webcam, so that the light is coming onto your face.
Yes, the light has to be going into your face. That's really important. And in my room here, the room where I am at the moment, I haven't got a window. I actually have a door. You can't see it, but there's a door that goes out there. And so because I haven't got a window, it's quite dark in here. I have a light on the ceiling, but that light doesn't look at me in my face. So what I have, and many people with videos have this, I have what they call a ring light. And the ring light is behind my computer screen. And when I do a video call, I switch the ring light on. And I can show you the difference. Well, I hope I can show you the difference, because I've just bought a new camera and my new camera adjusts. So I'm not sure if I can show you the difference, but I'll try. So this is, I have the ring light on. And that is what happens when I have the ring light off.
Definite difference, yeah.
So you can see that there's a huge difference. Top tip for anybody who's a little bit vain is, if you have lots of light in front of you, it also smooths out your wrinkles. So it makes me look much younger than I really am. Now, the other problem is to do with overhead lighting. And I actually have a remote control for my light, so I don't have to get up like Craig. But for example, look at the difference when I turn my overhead light off. And you can see that my camera is trying to adjust. But now I have too much light on my face, because the only light I have is coming from my ring light.
You're overexposed.
So I'm overexposed. So the best thing to do is to try to have the combination of 2. So a light that generally illuminates the room. And then if you really want to look spectacular without wrinkles, get a ring light.
I just seen I haven't said hello to Gemma. Hello, Gemma. I'm sorry. I've just seen you that you're watching. Thank you
That's
for
because you were
being
trying
here
to
as
put your
well.
lights on. Him,
I was trying to
very
put my
close.
lights on. Yeah. By the way, if you do need to do video conferencing for job interviews or for your work, your job, then I'm going to put a link in the chat for you to join us, and maybe we can help you improve your audio or your video setup. So I'll also put that banner here for you if you want to copy down this URL. Copy it from the chat is probably easier. Put that in your browser, which is another useful word. Your browser, your internet browser, like Chrome or Safari or what are the other ones? Firefox, thank you. Then you can join us live, and maybe we can give you some tips on how to improve your video and your audio. So that was lighting. Make sure you're lit up well. There's another phrasal verb, to light up your face. And also be aware of what's behind you. No dirty washing. No, some people have beds behind them that are not made. Just look behind you. Make sure that it's reasonably tidy, that there's nothing ugly or disgusting behind you before you go on video.
Yeah, and I'd like to add something there, especially for online interviews, because I think people sometimes when they go on the videos, because it's so common now, lots of people, of course, do a lot of video chats on their mobile phones with their friends and things. And I think that some people lose sight that when you're making a video, this kind of video communication, it is communication. And the key to communication, I think, is to think about who are you communicating with and what might be appropriate background for your friends, yeah, might not be an appropriate background for your job interviewer. Yeah. I'm an online teacher, and I did think a little bit about this background because I actually work from home. Now, I'm not very keen on showing lots of detail about my house to strangers. I know that I know many of you because you watch us regularly, but you know, you're on the internet, and I'm not very comfortable showing lots of detail about my home life. On the other hand, I think, well, if I'm a teacher and I'm teaching students, I want them to have confidence in me. And if I make a completely black background, or if I blur my background, blur is when you make it so that everything, all the detail is gone. Can you blur your background at the moment, Craig, to show them what I mean, or not? You're not able to.
Possibly,
No.
but it's difficult in this streaming software.
In this StreamYard. Well, you can blur your background, but you have to think about, you know, people who are going to talk to you are going to see you in this context. And is that the context that you want them to see you in? Yeah. And that should, I think that's the thing that really should govern what you have as a background. Now, because I'm a language teacher, I thought, okay, if people see my books, that's not bad, because then they think I'm intelligent.
Which you are.
It's like education, yeah.
No, it does.
Well,
it fits. It fits.
So yeah. It fits to what I'm doing. Of course, it fits to what I'm doing. This is kind of an office, and those are my books, and then a lot of those are English books, and it fits to my style. But for example, it might not be so appropriate for me to do my classes in the kitchen, for example. I don't think that that's very professional.
But if you had a cooking show or a cooking thing on YouTube, then it would be. So it depends.
So I think the main thing is to always think about what is the person that you're going to be speaking to. What the detail that's behind you is adding information about you. And is that the kind of impression that you want to give? And I think it's very important that you notice that. And that's when, as you say, when people have I mean, I've been on video calls where people have had washing hanging out behind them,
Or the
or
ironing with
they've
the
had,
ironing
yeah,
board.
the ironing board, or they've had unmade beds and things, and it
Yeah.
doesn't really add a lot of positive information to you,
Especially if it's a job interview.
Oh,
And when
definitely not.
when you are putting yourself on camera, be aware of framing, like where your head and shoulders are, because I started showing you this. Obviously, that's not a good image you want to project. And sometimes if you're using a laptop, the webcam is situated very low, so it looks up your nose, and you're showing your potential employer all of the hairs up your nose and whatever else might, and that's not a good image that you want to project. So
No.
make sure the level of the webcam is level to your eyes, or maybe a little above. Now, if you are going for an interview, I would suggest that you are a bit lower than the webcam, because that suggests that the person interviewing you is looking down on you, which would be fitting if you're asking for a job. And if you are the interviewer, then you want it to be a little higher, because that imposes a little bit more authority.
What do you mean, Craig?
You see, look how bossy and in charge Lynn looks now.
What are you thinking there? All right.
Ooh,
Now, actually, Craig and I, when we do this and we have our cameras, before we actually go live with you, that's one of the things that Craig and I always do, isn't it, Craig? We try
make sure
to
we're more or less the
adjust
same level,
our heights so that we're more or less the same level.
You
and
need
I
to
also
be. You
don't
need to
want
be.
to sit here, and I don't want to sit there. I want to
Exactly.
be right in the frame.
And you want to be just maybe a little bit higher, because you've got the same problem as I have. If I move, you can see that my light is reflecting off of the picture behind me. And your light is reflecting off your wardrobe. So if we go a little higher,
a bit higher, I can hide.
Your head will cover it. Perfect.
That's
perfect. Now you're getting some headline on the top of your hair, so that's perfect. Okay. So
and one last thing, of course, is you can actually, with the framing of your picture, it depends on your camera, or it depends on how far back you sit. So, for example, with my camera, I have just got a new camera, and so some of it I'm not really 100% sure how it all works, but but I have got this new technique now, and I can do this.
Wow.
If I want to. Yeah.
You want to scare people and get really
of
close.
Course, when I do this, I don't think this is a great background, because there's too much detail in the background. So people focus on the detail and they don't focus on me.
Right.
Okay. Obviously, if I'm up here, it's a bit scary and it's not good because my head's cut. Okay. So, there are things that you can think about. Now, if you have a camera that you can do that with, that you can focus, that's great. And if you don't, you can do it just by sitting a little bit further forward or a little bit closer. Okay. So that there are things that you can play with.
That's a good point. And something I try to do, although it's very difficult when you have got images on the screen, I should be looking more into the webcam, because when you're making eye contact, especially in an interview or on a conference call, if it's a business meeting, then you are looking the person in the eye, and it's better body language. You're establishing a connection with the person. But it's very, very tempting to let your eyes drop and look at the person that you're speaking to. So I'm looking at Lynn because I'm speaking with Lynn, and sometimes I'm looking at the chat, but I always try to remind myself to go back regularly and look right in the webcam. What I used to have is a little tiny picture of a friend, and I used to put the picture with some blue tack and imagine I was talking to the person next to the webcam in the picture. So that might help you.
It's tricky, that I think that your last tip, I would agree with you. I think it's, for example, if I was making a video and it was just me, right? then it's very clear that you should be looking at the webcam, because then you're talking to the webcam. But of course, when we're in an interview like this, and I'm responding to you, it's very important that I see your face, because if I'm not looking at you, then my response to you is not going to be appropriate, because I miss things that you're doing on your face. So in my classes, for example, I'm always looking at the other person. I don't look at myself, I look at the other person. And I know that for some of my students at the beginning, some of my students have problems with that, because they look at me and then they look down and they're taking notes and they're taking notes and they're taking notes. And I'm saying, no, can you look at me? Look at me. And then when they start looking at me, then we interact again.
Yeah.
And I think there is the danger that with the video arena, that sometimes we're too busy like looking at the chat file or looking down on the keyboard, and then you're no longer interacting. So you have to keep reminding yourself to keep looking at the person. If you're in a dialogue, if you're creating a video, then what Craig said is essential. You have to look at the camera the whole time. Don't look at yourself, look at the camera.
That's a good point. Now, remember, if you want to join us, you can see this link in the chat. Just copy and paste it from the chat into your browser if you would like us to give you some help with your webcam appearance. Now, we've looked at video. Let's look at sound. And after sound, we'll look at some expressions for troubleshooting if there are any problems with the video or the sound. So with sound, where is my... Here we are, tips for sound. Now, obviously, choose your best microphone. Now, I might be wrong, because you've just got this new webcam. You might be getting the sound from the webcam.
No,
or have
I'm
you
not.
selected the microphone?
I've selected it because my webcam has a microphone. Are you having problems with my sound?
No, I'm not having problems. It just sounds a little bit echoey. So I'm wondering if it's the webcam that's picking it up, or the... I might be wrong. It might be fine. It's just because it's new. It sometimes defaults. Oh, you have selected it. Okay.
I have selected it. No, because
Maria's... one second, because Maria's joining us, so maybe we can help Maria with her video, but we can't actually see you at the moment, Maria. We've brought you into the stream. Can you hear us?
Hello, yes, I hear you.
Hello. Can you switch on your video feed?
Oh, unfortunately, in this moment, I can't switch to video.
Okay. No worries. Your sound, your audio is very, very good. Are you speaking to us on a mobile phone, Maria?
Yeah, mobile phone.
It sounds very good. Where are you speaking from?
I'm speaking from Colombia.
Well, you're very, very welcome. Do you need to connect on the internet for job interviews or conferences?
In this moment, I'm like thinking about presenting for working on overseas. So it will be good to prepare for that kind of interviews.
And what have you been studying? Are you studying at the moment, or are you just looking for work, or are you studying presently?
I'm studying engineering management.
You enjoying it?
Yeah, it's really interesting, but yeah, it's kind of hard to get a job, and that's why also I'm trying to prepare more my English speaking skills, because I will have more opportunities with that.
Well, your English sounds very, very good to me. Your pronunciation is excellent. You're very clear. We can understand everything you say. So don't you agree, Lynn?
Yes, I do. One little tip for improvement is it's a typical thing for Spanish speakers. Be careful when you say, I'm speaking from Colombia. Remember, we don't put the E before the speaking. So I'm speaking from Colombia. Can you say that?
Oh yeah, that's really hard for us. Speaking,
Try.
maybe?
Can you try now?
Speaking? Speaking?
I'm speaking from Colombia. Again?
I'm speaking from Colombia.
Excellent. Excellent.
Fantastic.
And the other thing to practice is I'm a Spanish speaker, because that's 2 S's. I'm a
Yes,
Spanish speaker.
I'm a
Yeah, so that,
Spanish speaker.
no, you put the in there. I'm a Spanish speaker.
I'm
Try
a
again.
Spanish speaker. Speaker.
This you got the Spanish, but when you're moving to the word speaker, you're putting the in again. So I'm
Okay.
a Spanish speaker. Try
I'm
again.
a Spanish speaker. Speaker.
Perfect. Now you have to
Perfect.
practice that. You have to practice that in the shower every day. And in the shower, nobody hears you, but you can keep practicing, and then you can eliminate. The problem is from Spanish, of course, every time a word begins with an S, you want
Yes.
to add the which is a tricky thing.
Then you can
But
try
otherwise,
3
no.
words together. You can
Uh-huh.
try salty spaghetti sauce, for example.
Oh,
You tried that?
Let's make
a
it
hard
hard.
one.
Yeah, but that's
No,
just
but I agree with with Craig. I think your English is very clear. So if you speak like that on an online interview, then I think you'll be doing very well. Mhm.
Well, thank you for joining.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming in and saying hello, Maria, and best of luck for the future. And keep listening, because we've got some more expressions and tips for you for when you do go on that job interview online and you need to present yourself well.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so we're back
Great.
with
That's lovely.
yeah, lovely to speak to Maria. Now, yeah, check for echoes, because if I didn't have these earphones, then when Lynn speaks to me or Maria speaks to me, the audio would come out of my speakers and go into my microphone, causing echo. So when you connect, make sure you use headphones like Lynn's wearing, or these cheap earphones, and you may have a microphone on your earphones. If you do, make sure it's not rubbing and touching your clothes, because then you'll hear this, which is horrible. Make sure if you have long hair, your hair is not rubbing on the microphone. Maybe just hold the microphone in front of your face so that your audio is very, very clear.
Mhm. And I actually use a headset with a microphone, because I think usually it gives a clearer response. But I do have to be careful sometimes, because when I go to drink water, I move my microphone. And now you probably can't hear me very well, can you? Or not as well as you were before.
Not as well, and there's a little more echo because it's further
and there's
from your
more
mouth.
echo because it's further away. Okay, so if that happens, you can say to somebody, what would you say, Craig, to ask me to?
Can you move the microphone closer to your mouth, please?
Exactly. Oh yes, of course. Sorry. Is that better?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you perfectly. Loud and clear, we would say. I hear you loud and clear. Always remember to close your windows, close your doors. If you have a dog or a cat, make sure it's in the other room with the door closed. You don't want your dog barking. You don't want children crying, any distracting noises, especially if it's a job interview. You don't want anyone to hear the traffic and the buses from outside, motorbikes. So make your area as quiet as possible before your interview. Speaking of noise, Lynn.
This is a thing probably you don't suffer with, but I do. And I've put these earrings on today, but I often like to wear long earrings, but for online teaching, this can cause problems. Yeah. So the best thing is to do is not to wear any jangling jewelry, because sometimes these are not too bad. Actually, I've got other ones that are more metally and they make noises. And when you're moving your head, then it creates noise for the microphone. So it's a good idea not, to leave away the jewelry if you've got a headset on. for example. Okay.
Exactly. And bracelets as well. Sometimes the
And
bracelets bang
bracelets
on the
too.
desk, and
Mhm.
that's distracting when it's repetitive. Repetitive noises or banging jewelry can be very, very distracting.
Mhm.
And if you need to cough or sneeze, achoo, then click the mute button. Most video software has a mute button, M-U-T-E. So make
On
sure
the
you
bar, probably
on
at the
the
bottom of your
toolbar.
screen, there where you have to hover your mouse if you can't see it. And it's
Exactly.
really important to mute it. Otherwise, you're going to make people go, and it's really unpleasant, isn't it? So it's
And that's something you can do if the dog does start barking, if there is distracting noises and the other person is speaking, you can mute to stop the distractions coming into the video feed.
And a top tip, because this does happen sometimes, and I've seen it with my own students. And I can imagine if you're in an online interview and it's an interview and you want to make a good impression, and imagine for some reason, even though you thought you'd closed the doors, you've got rid of the dog, you've told people don't interrupt me, but for some reason you get interrupted. Okay, so maybe somebody from your house comes in the room and needs to speak to you, or maybe you've forgotten to silence your phone and your phone's ringing. Okay, when you excuse yourself and you say to the other person, excuse me, can you excuse me just for a moment? I have to answer this, or I have to answer somebody, or I have to do something. Mute your microphone, because it's extremely embarrassing. And this has happened to me as a teacher, where my students have been interrupted because somebody has called them on a telephone, and then they proceed to have the telephone conversation. And of course, I hear everything.
Of course.
And sometimes it's embarrassing. I don't know if you've ever had that, but I've had people who've started having arguments with their partners on the telephone, and I'm sitting there in the thing and I'm listening to it all. I'm thinking, please mute your microphone,
That's
because I
not good
can't.
manners, is it? That's not good manners.
So that is a little bit of etiquette that some people actually forget, if you're not very used to using online software. But if you do get interrupted, the polite thing to do is to mute your microphone. Tell the other person, excuse me, can you just forgive me? I have a very brief interruption and I'm going to mute my microphone. So just tell the other person you're going to mute your microphone, deal with the interruption.
And then come back.
And then come back on.
Yeah.
And if it's really necessary, you can also stop the video feed.
Can I stop you for a second, Lynn? Because we've got another person joining us. Pavel is coming in to say hi. Hi, Pavel.
Oh, hi. Hi, Pavel.
I think you're muted, Pavel. You need to unmute to speak to us.
Yes. Sorry.
Brilliant.
Hi, hello. To see you. Hi.
Hello.
Where are you from, Pavel? Where are you?
Oh, yes. I'm from Mexico City.
Oh, fantastic. And do you do online interviews too? Is it something you're familiar with, like doing online meetings or online interviews? Or do you not do them in English?
Not really. I have not much opportunity to having chat with native people or English speakers. It's very difficult. Of course, in Mexico, there are lots of people, native people from Canada, from the United States, from London, actually. But meeting this kind of people is really difficult. When, of course, in my case.
Are you working or studying at the moment?
Yes, both. I'm working. I work as a teacher on elementary school, and I study English. Actually, I'm studying English. Pizza is the name of the university.
Okay, well,
fantastic.
One comment I must make: I really like the lighting you've got. I'm interested to know if you're on a laptop, on a telephone, on a mobile phone. How are you connecting with us?
Yes, on a mobile phone.
Do you have it on a stand, or are you holding it in your hand?
In my hand.
Okay. Yeah, it's moving a little bit. It's it's moving a little bit, but it looks very good, doesn't it, Lynn? And I like the background, and your face is well lit. You have the same problem I have. I'm trying to solve the problem of the light reflecting in my glasses.
Yes, you have
And
some glare on your glasses. And I
glare.
noticed, Pavel, when you put your head down, just tilt your head forward a little bit. That's it. Can you come a bit closer? Can you come a bit closer to your phone, or bring your phone closer?
Yes.
Something is reflecting, especially not on your right eye. I don't know if it's your right eye or your left. on one of your eyes, it's very clear and I can see your eye. And on the other one, you're getting a lot of reflection. So that's something that maybe by changing your position,
Okay.
you might be able to take away that.
Okay, what about
see?
this?
You
Perfect.
see that is
Much
stopping
better.
the glare, and that's much better because we can see more of your eyes and more of your face.
Yes.
The negative side of that is that you've lost that lovely purple solid background, because now I can see a little bit of your door.
Yes.
Yeah?
It's the door of my
But
bedroom.
that's something that you can maybe, play around with. You should experiment before you go on an online chat like that.
Yes, I'm
Because you
sorry.
can no. This is what this is about. Because that's the sort of thing that can optimize your appearance, and especially if it's a job interview, it would be good for you to have the optimized approach. Yeah.
But the camera on your phone and the audio on your phone is very, very good. One thing I'd suggest, though, if you do need to do an online interview, your phone is fine, but just try to put it on a stand like this. If you can get one of these cheap things that will hold your phone on a tripod so that it's fixed, because if it's moving around too much in the interview, then that can be a bit distracting and people feel seasick, and if it's moving too much. So if it's stable in one place, like you have it now at eye level, that gives a very, very good impression. And I really like the lighting and the audio. It's excellent.
Thank you. Thank you for the advice.
Fantastic. So best of luck with your future, Pavel. And I hope that if you do have an online interview, or you have a Zoom conference in English, I hope you'll be able to do it with that kind of picture. That's fantastic.
Yes, this is a kind of interview too, right?
Yes, of course, a kind of, yeah. But today in the class, what we're focusing on most is the language that you might need to interact with people. Like we said to you, can you move a little bit? Can you just move a little bit? You're getting some glare. Or can you tilt your camera? That kind of language is the focus of this online class, rather than a direct interview. But you are right. This is exactly like an interview. You're doing.
Pavel, would it be interesting for you if one week we did an hour on interview questions and how to answer interview questions on video? Would that be useful?
Oh, sorry, I didn't get you. Could you repeat?
Would you like us to prepare a live stream about an interview, a job interview? So example questions and how to answer those questions in an interview situation. Would that be useful for you?
Yes, definitely.
Okay,
yes,
so maybe we can do that maybe next time.
Yes, thank you so much. It's a real pleasure to talk with you. I've heard about you, Greg, a few years ago because of my brother, and I'm following you on Spotify, and your podcasts are really, really good to me.
Thank you. I'm pleased that we're helping you, and I hope you do really well in the future. Thanks for joining us, Pavel. We're going to let you go so that we can get to some more tips and advice for other people watching. But thank you very much for coming in and saying hello. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lynn. It's a pleasure, Lynn.
And thank you for listening. And thank you for listening to the podcast as well.
Yes.
That's nice. Okay. Where were we?
So
yeah, Maria Clara says that will be great. So I'm assuming that she also wants some job interview questions and answers. So maybe we can do that.
We can
next
try
time.
that. Yeah. Okay.
Do you remember where we were, Lynn?
Yes, I do. I think what we should do now, just to finish off, is look at some language that you might need if you have to solve a problem online. Have you got the English to be able to do the troubleshooting of the
troubleshooting
problems. Language. Troubleshooting is when you solve a problem. You have a problem and you have to solve it. And one of the problems with online format like this is that many techie things can go wrong. Yeah. And then you might have prepared all your answers to the perfect interview, and then your English is failing you because you can't solve these technical problems.
And it makes you even more nervous and more anxious. And the person you're speaking to says, I'm sorry, but your picture is blurred and you don't know how to fix it. So maybe one thing I liked about Pavel when he came in was that his picture was very crisp and clear. So the first thing you need to do if you are using your mobile phone, obviously, I said make sure it's stable, make sure it's on a tripod if possible and not moving, but also clean the lens. Many people forget that their fingers are touching the lens and they put coffee on the lens, or maybe something, it's dirty, it's greasy. So take a clean cloth before the interview, make sure the lens on your camera is clean before you connect, and that will give you that good image that Pavel had.
And if you can't see somebody very clearly, then that's what you would say. I'm sorry, but your picture is blurred. I can't see you very well. Okay, and blurred means out of focus. And then you might ask somebody, and I've asked Craig several times today, you might have heard the word, but don't really know. Can you tilt your camera? Now, tilt means, can you put it on a different angle, right? So this is tilt. So when I've asked, Craig's just demonstrating there, can you tilt your camera? I can't see all of your face. That's very common when people use the camera in laptops, because unfortunately they have the laptop screen folded down a bit because they can't see the screen. And of course, they have to put it up if you're going to see the whole of your face.
Yeah, especially if it's looking up your nose. Be careful of that.
I think generally, we didn't say that, but generally my advice is it's always better if the camera is looking down on you rather than looking up at you. Because sometimes, especially on laptops or people with their phones, they have the camera here, and I get a beautiful vision of people's chins, or double chins or triple chins, but you actually don't see their eyes. And what we really want to focus on is the other person's eyes. So try to have the camera directly in front of you, or even, I think your camera is a little bit higher than you, Craig. Can that be? It seems to be looking down a little bit on you.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's straighter.
And sometimes with a laptop, all it means is taking some thick books and putting the laptop on some books and making it at a higher level.
Higher level rather than down on the desk. Exactly.
Another common problem is when this happens. And that happened to me today in a class. I was with somebody, which brings me to another problem. Make sure, if possible, that you're using a wired connection and not Wi-Fi. And be careful of the pronunciation of that word, Wi-Fi, because Wi-Fi connection is always going to be worse than a hard-wired connection with a cable. And that's why this student today, her picture froze. So when the picture freezes, it stays in one place, and you don't want that. So one thing to do if you...
I want to say, I've got to give you this piece of vocabulary because my daughter's taught me this. There is something in modern language which is called an RBF. Do you know what an RBF is, Craig?
An RBF.
An RBF.
No. The last
These
word's
are the
frozen.
abbreviations of letters. RBF. And the RBF, it's modern slang. Craig and I are a bit old, so my daughter had to explain this to me. Apparently, an RBF is short for resting bitch face. And this happens a resting bitch face is when you think nobody is looking at you, and you might be pulling a really horrible face without realizing it. And unfortunately, on Zoom and Skype and all of this, when we have
the one is going
problems
to freeze,
and your image has frozen, often you're frozen with a really bad RBF. You know, it's
looks
like
horrible. Yeah.
And then the people, the person you're doing the interview with is seeing that for a very long period of time. So that's a bit of a problem. So anyway, it happens. You just have to get over it. If it
One
happens,
way to fix
your
that.
image has frozen. Yeah.
One way to fix that is to restart your video feed. So you close your camera and go out of the video feed and come back in again. So you might hear that instruction from somebody also. You might hear somebody say, your picture's frozen. Can you go out and come in again? Can you leave the program and re-enter? If you do have very narrow bandwidth and you don't have a good internet connection, I said before, try to make it a wired connection. Another thing you can do is to close the video and just use audio like a telephone conversation, because closing the video will let you have more bandwidth for the audio. So that's one solution if you really do have bad connection.
And if you do freeze, because you see that you freeze, don't you, as well on your own video feed, and if you see that you've frozen and you've got this horrible thing, you can actually just do it and say, excuse me, I'm going to restart my video feed. And then you can quickly hover your mouse down the bottom, get the video, just click on the video, which will turn off the video feed and then turn it on again. And that will have the effect of unfreezing you. Rather, you don't have to wait for the internet to catch up, especially if you've got a very bad RBF.
I'll have to remember that abbreviation. That's something I've learned today. Another expression you might hear or might need to use is, can you share your screen? And I used this a couple of days ago with a class when I was teaching, because the students were giving a presentation. They needed to share their screen. So that means you go to the icon that's screen share in whatever software you're using, hover your mouse or click your mouse, and then you can share whatever is on your screen. And a question you might ask when you're doing this is, can you see my screen? So you're just checking that everything is okay, that the other person can see what you want to present. What else do we have? Chat file.
Chat file. Now the chat file is very important, because if there is a problem with the video or the sound, the chat file is going to be your saving function. So I always, in my online classes, I always insist that my students open the chat file at the beginning of the class and that they keep it open the whole time. Because if there is a problem and the person can't hear you, then you can be talking away and they can't hear you. And the only way you've got is to actually use the chat file as a message. And so, of course, many of you now are using the chat file to communicate with us on this live stream. So you know how to use the chat file. Okay, if you've never used it before, hover your mouse at the bottom. You will see the icon for chat file, and you click on it and you can open up the chat file.
We only have a couple of minutes left, but let's go through the next expressions quite quickly. The first thing you'll probably say when you get online in whatever software is, can you hear me okay? Just checking that the audio is working, that your microphone's working and it's connected correctly. So can you hear me okay, Lynn?
Yes, fine, loud and clear, thanks. I can say, can you mute your microphone? Or more common, can you unmute your microphone? I can't hear you. Can you unmute your microphone?
Sometimes the signal might be too high and it's very, very loud. So you might say to the person, I'm sorry, your sound is very loud. Another expression is hot. You sound very hot. You're coming in too high. Can you lower the volume? Can you bring the volume down? And if you're speaking like this, and you probably can't hear me very well now, then,
can you put the mic closer to your mouth?
Yes, how's that? Can you hear me now?
That's much better, thank you.
Yeah, so loud, low.
How's that? That's also not easy, is it, in English? How's that? Is it good?
I can hear you fine. And also you might break up. Now that's not, we're not talking about relationships here or marriages.
No, I don't want to say I'm
Lynne,
demonstrating, you've got to say it now.
Lynne, you're breaking up. Can you say that again?
Oh, sorry. Yes. Can you hear me now? Is that all right?
Yes. Loud and clear. I can hear you loud and clear. If you can't hear someone, you can say, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that, which is a nice expression that means I didn't understand you. I didn't hear you. You're breaking up. I can't hear you very well. I didn't catch that. Can you repeat it, please? Can you say it again?
And if the sound is not normal and you may be getting interference from something, you can say, the sound is distorted. I'm sorry, I'm not understanding you very well. And that means when we say distorted, it's not because you're not speaking clearly or your English is not good. We're talking about we have an interference on the line. So maybe there's a buzzing or something else, or but the sound is distorted. That's a technical problem. That is not because you're not speaking loud enough or clearly enough. Okay.
And if you do have one of these problems, whether it's a video problem, an audio problem, you're breaking up, the sound's distorted, what that does is that interrupts the conversation. So what you need to do is get back on track. You need to bring the conversation back to what you were talking about before. So here's some expressions you can use. Where was I? What was I saying? And then, as I was saying before we were interrupted, blah, blah, blah. So you're bringing the conversation back on track after a technical interruption.
Mm-hmm. I think that's all we've got time for tonight, Craig.
Unfortunately, yes,
so
that was
we
a
might
lot of
have to
fun,
call it a day there.
What does that mean? Call it a day.
Call it a day. Let's bring it to a close. I think we have to bring this class to a close. Both of those phrases mean we have to end the class for now. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Thank you to Pavel and to Maria for coming in and saying hi.
Yeah.
It was lovely to see some of you in person. Before we go, we'll quickly tell you where we're from if this is the first time you're watching. Lynne.
Yeah, so I'm Lynne. My business is called putitlikethis.com. Well, that's my website, actually, putitlikethis.com. I'm an online teacher and I make tailor-made classes for online. So I teach exclusively online, and but I make individual courses for people. So if you have a very specific objective, then you can come to me and I will create a course around the needs that you have. If you go to my website, you'll see more about the kinds of things I do, and you can get in touch with me if you want to.
Okay. I also teach online, and if you're interested in fluency speaking courses, there is one at the moment that is full, but if you're interested in the next one starting in November, go and put your email address over at englishmasterclass.net, and I will be in touch with details of the starting date, etc., of the next course. And I also write material for a website called mansioningles.com. We're just preparing at the moment our free newsletters that are sent by email every 2 weeks. Apart from those newsletters that have lots of activities for all levels, you can do free courses over at mansioningles.com. And you can also buy paid courses if you'd like to study something specific. And also, we have a podcast. So if you don't know about the podcast, Pavel does, but maybe you don't. So go to inglespodcast.com or listen to Ingles Podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thank you for watching. It's been a lot of fun. And thank you, Lynne, for joining this week.
Yeah, thank you. And it has been fun. And thank you to everybody for your comments, and also especially to the two very brave students who came in online this week. That was
well done, Maria.
Yes, very good. Maria and Pablo.
And Pavel.
Pavel.
Thank you, Gemma, for watching. And thank you to everybody who's watched us. And I will be back next week either on my own or with a mystery guest. I'm not sure yet. And Lynn, hopefully we'll be back in 2 weeks. Yeah.
In 2 weeks' time. Yeah.
Okay.
So look forward to it. Okay. So have a good day, because of course, if you're in Mexico or South America, your day is in the middle. And have a good evening if you're in Northern Europe. We're about to have dinner and go to bed. So whatever you're doing, have a good one.
Have a good one.
Have a good one. All right.
See you
Bye-bye.
soon. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.